and welcome to the Total Soccer Show Copa America Centenario 2016 Group C preview. I am Daryl Grove, and I'm joined by a man who, unlike Gio dos Santos, never refuses an invitation. It's Taylor Rockwell.
I mean, never is a strong word, but yeah, generally speaking, if I'm invited, I go. It's the southern, genteel aspect of my upbringing.
I've seen your weekend schedule. There are many, many things packed in there.
This is true,
Sometimes
especially this weekend, yeah. There's quite a few.
I know you have one particular thing at 7 p.m. this weekend. We'll talk about that later on the show. But first, let's get to our Copa America Group C previews. It is Mexico, Uruguay, Jamaica, and Venezuela.
All right.
If you haven't heard one of these shows before, essentially we give you a quick intro to the team, and then we give you our very specific predictions for what's going to happen with these teams.
All righty. Sounds good to me.
Shall we start with Mexico?
Seems logical.
The seeded team in this group is Mexico, but that was part of the deal of Copa America Centenario. But I would argue they maybe deserve to be a seeded team.
Yes,
I'm putting a shout on this. They are the best team in this group.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's tough, and that's a bold statement because I think I'm just hedging my bets because obviously it comes down to Mexico and Uruguay. It's tough to say, but I do think just because Uruguay, as we talked about, I think a little bit off air, there's a tendency that they've got so many players, and then you list 4 or 5,
yeah,
and then outside of that, maybe it's kind of curtails a little bit.
Whereas with Mexico, there are so many players missing, and yet there's still 23 players, and they're brimming over with attacking talent.
Yes.
I'd say at least they're the team I'm most excited to watch play in this
I
group.
agree, and that's surprising.
Even as the US is sort of mortal rivals, I still am excited just to watch this team play.
Yeah, I think, didn't you say that you're like sad that Mexico are the USA's biggest rival?
Yeah, because I wish I could just watch them like as a neutral and enjoy them.
Well, and it's especially interesting given with the appointment of Juan Carlos Osorio.
Yes.
I was sort of like, oh, okay, so this isn't like the best appointment. He didn't really have a great time in Major League Soccer.
It seemed weird at the time, right?
It did, and now it seems like maybe a really good decision because it seems like he's approaching everything. You juxtapose him with Miguel Herrera, and it's much calmer, it's much more like kind of diplomatic in the way he seems to conduct his press conferences.
And it's definitely not Sven-Goran Eriksson in a money-grabby kind of way, right?
Very true. So I think he wasn't initially very popular. He may still not be popular with Mexico fans, but it does seem like he's got a good read on this team to the point that he's kind of made the roster decisions he needed to make. No Carlos Vela, no Jonathan dos Santos in this one. And
both on form, right? The Vela and dos Santos you would think would be in there just because they're names that you know, but Carlos Vela has not been scoring for Sociedad this year. Jonathan dos Santos left out on form. Let's talk a little bit about Gio dos Santos.
Actually, Vela left out on form. Dos Santos, from what I understand, left out because of injury, maybe leading into a lack of form. And then there's Gio dos Santos left out because ?
It's still controversial, right? So Osorio said that LA Galaxy's Gio dos Santos refused an invitation to be in the final 23. He was in the provisional 40.
Before we get
dos Santos says, no, I was just left out.
Well, before we get to this, I want to make my specific prediction, which is that Gio dos Santos will not score in this tournament. Is that okay?
That's
You'll
fine.
allow that one? Okay, cool. Then I'm going to get that point.
He's on the 40. It still could come back around, so he gets called back in. I'm just saying, it's possible.
But yes, so basically, Osorio says he was called and then refused the call-up. Dos Santos, I think, initially said, like, I didn't refuse anything, and has since said, like, I appreciate the opportunity, but at this time, I must stay with my club.
It's the great mystery of Copa America 2016 so far.
Sort of, but I think maybe we've got an idea on it. We've read between the lines a little bit, and my guess,
what did you read there?
At least, is that it sounds like maybe Osorio called him, but was direct with him, and essentially said, we want you in the team, but you're probably not going to start. You may not feature very much. But
this is our speculation.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. But you're saying maybe he was called to the 23, but it was suggested he wouldn't start, and therefore dos Santos was like, well, LA Galaxy want me to play.
I think so, because it just seems like there was a weird discrepancy at first, where one said he was called, the other says, no, I wasn't.
Yeah.
And just that there was that disagreement initially seemed strange to me.
It seems a disagreement over semantics.
Yeah, exactly. Because it seems like otherwise, if I called you and said, hey, do you want to do something? And you said, no, I'm not that interested, then we would both kind of have the same rough story.
Yeah.
And if you said no, we would work out that rough story at least so that we could present a good public face and not have it be sort of this weird thing that has to be rectified on Twitter. So that's where I get the impression that maybe he was said, you won't be a starter, but you will maybe feature. We just can't say for sure. And he was like, I'll just stay in LA then.
But the big takeaway here is even without either of the Dos Santoses, the Dos Santai,
yeah, sure.
or Carlos Vela. They still have this incredible 23-man roster that looks to me like a really healthy mix of Liga MX players and European-based players. There's a really good balance, the sort of balance we used to see for the US national team. Before we get into specific predictions, I just want to talk about the sort of shape that Osorio plays with Mexico.
Okay.
So the way I see it from the games that I've looked back on, he plays essentially a 4-3-3.
Yep.
Attacking fullbacks, Aguilar, who US fans will be familiar with, he scored that incredible volley in the CONCACAF Cup. He's the right back who gets forward. Leun is the left back who gets forward. There's a 3-man central midfield, usually with Herrera and Guardado and question mark. We'll talk about that in a bit.
Yep.
And then a 3-man forward line that is either 2 strikers and an attacking winger or 1 striker surrounded by wingers. It's whoever the front 3 is, they're terrifying, and we'll talk about that in a minute as well.
Yeah, spoiled for choice, basically, are Mexico.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of very good goal scorers who are in good form coming into this season.
And that's why Dos Santos
this tournament, excuse me.
That's why Dos Santos is a headline, but it's not actually a problem.
Right. And then the only other minor problem could be in the form of goalkeeper. And in fact, I have Copa America Group C as the group of goalkeepers for various reasons, which we'll get to. But in this one, so you have Memo Ochoa generally in there, but then you've also got Jesus Corona of Cruz Azul and Alfredo Talavera of Toluca. You don't really know who's going to start because Ochoa has been on the bench for Malaga in Spain. So we'll see what happens there. It probably will be Ochoa, but we'll see how Juan Carlos Osorio deals with that issue later on.
One final note on Mexico's form since Osorio took over. Do you know the last team to score on Mexico?
On Mexico or in Mexico?
Against Mexico at all?
I do not.
The USA.
There we go.
As far as I can tell, they haven't conceded a goal since that CONCACAF Cup final. I think the last guy to score against them was Bobby Wood.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
They've won 4 straight in qualifying, have not conceded a goal. They are the only team that's officially in the Hex so far. So that's the form that Mexico are in. Okay, we've set it up. What is your real, very specific prediction? Apart from Gio Dos Santos will not score. And if he's called in and he does score, you're going to hear about it from me, my friend.
It's that Andres Guardado will make the Copa America team of the tournament.
Very nice.
He will be in the best 11.
Okay, tell me why.
Number one, he's just very, very good. We've seen that time and time again when he plays against the United States. But I think the larger element is in that 3-man midfield. You need someone to sort of consistently boss it. We know that Hector Herrera can play. I know he was your darling of the 2014 World Cup, or one of your few darlings.
I've never said that he was no longer my darling.
But I never, as a U.S. fan, I never had the, please don't let him be fit the way I did with Andres Guardado, because he's just so good in that midfield. He's so good in the Netherlands as well for his club team. I believe it's PSV.
Yeah.
And so with those two things in mind, I just think this is going to be his tournament. I also think this is going to be more or less Mexico's tournament, and so I think with that comes a strong performance from Andres Guardado.
Well, let's talk about what he does, because I feel like Osorio's found a good spot for him, because it is like he was kind of a left winger and then he was kind of a central player, and with this midfield 3 he plays left of centre. He's sort of in the perfect Guardado channel almost, and he's so good at sort of, first of all, moving the ball forward, just dribbling. Like, he'll move forward with the ball, he'll pick out a beautiful pass, or he'll happily hit a shot from long range.
Yes.
And that ball will happily go in the top corner for him.
It will. Also,
that's what makes him so dangerous.
Also, beautiful flowing locks. Never hurts.
I think he may have cut them short. The videos I've seen recently.
I love the curly flowing locks.
We may have a Samson situation.
Oh, no.
Right. If he doesn't make the team of the tournament, it was a Samson situation. Yeah.
What about you, Daryl? What have you got for your first specific prediction for Mexico?
Jesus Corona, not the goalkeeper, the attacking player, better known as Tecatito, currently of Porto, will score the best goal of Copa America Group C.
Do you remember why he's called Tecatito? Because it's amazing.
It's because, so his name's Corona, which is a beer, but he played for, was it Monterrey? Yeah, Monterrey, who was sponsored by Tecate.
Yep.
So they just decided his nickname was Tecatito. And I feel like it's semi-ironic, but also kind of brandy.
Yeah, thank you to Tom Marshall of ESPN for that one.
Yes.
He told us that on the show, and it was amazing.
If you want to follow Tom for good Mexico updates, at Mexico World Cup, I believe, is his Twitter handle.
Yeah, that checks out. Okay, so yes.
Here's why Corona will score the goal of the tournament. So they play this front 3, right? They'll have a striker or maybe another winger. Corona will play either left or right of that striker, pretty much without defensive responsibility from what I've seen. And when he gets running in the box, he will cut, he will swerve, he will beat players. So and then he shoots and seems to find the corners. So I feel like he's against Canada in 2 recent qualifiers. He did exactly this. In the box, a couple of cut swerves around people, then bending it into the corner. So if he just keeps doing that, at some point he's going to score a goal where he beats 3 guys in the box and scores, and we're all going to be like, oh, that was an amazing goal. And that's going to be shared all over social media.
He also seems like
he'll score a viral goal, let's put it that way.
He also seems like he is locked on, at this point at least, to start in one of those attacking three positions.
I think so.
Because we don't quite know what Osorio will do. He does have Javier Hernandez, obviously, but then you also have Raul Jimenez, who couldn't stop scoring this season.
Peralta.
Yeah. So, I mean, you've got a lot of options there, and so we don't know if he will stick with that kind of three-man winger, big man in the middle front line, or what he'll do, but it does seem like regardless, Tecatito will be in there, will be starting, and will be taking some shots.
So not too much defensive responsibility. Well, at least when he played against Canada, but I guess that's a different scenario to playing against Uruguay. But plenty of attacking thrust. He will run at people, he will beat people, he will score, it will go viral. Tecatito goes viral, 2016.
Tecatito goes viral. All right. My second specific prediction, I tried to find a couple different ways to phrase this. It started with Mexico is the new Belgium, which is the sense, not that they're a country that's now a brewery, but more so that they are the new
Belgium's been working on that for a while.
Yeah, true. Well, I'm just saying when you say Mexico is the new Belgium, then you've got New Belgium Brewing. See what I'm going with there? But no, it's more the idea that Belgium are kind of consistently everyone's dark horse candidate to do things in the tournament. I think Mexico justifiably are in this one as well. So I've got Mexico will make at least the semifinals of this tournament.
It's a good shout.
If you push me, I might say the finals, and if you push me further, I might say Mexico could win this tournament.
It's as close as you can get to a home game, a home tournament for Mexico, right? They'll be magnificently supported. They'll be pretty
barring
comfortable.
The theoretical 2026 joint bid for Mexico and the USA for the World Cup.
Right, okay, yeah.
Outside of that,
are half hosting.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I just think, so I started off with trying to predict that Mexico, my initial prediction was going to be Mexico will win this group on goal difference. Because I think Mexico and Uruguay will both win their games against Jamaica and Venezuela, will draw against each other, and then Mexico will have a better goal difference overall. So they'll both be on 7. But I don't know that for sure. I don't really feel as confident with that. But I do think Mexico makes it out of this group. And for the reason you mentioned, more or less playing on home soil. We've seen that many, many times. Since they're not playing in Columbus, they're more or less going to have a lot of fans in their stadium, more or less playing on home soil. And then I just think they're a strong team. I think they make at least the semifinals, if not the final.
My next prediction.
What you got?
Rafa Marquez will play fewer than half of available minutes in Copa America Group C.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, why have you got this one?
Well, I mean, first of all, I know it's a bold one, but Rafa Marquez is 37 years old. Okay, so think about that. So I understand why he's in the squad, because he's kind of the leader, the heart and soul of the team. It seems to me the centre backs that Osorio plays in the 4-3-3 are Diego Reyes of Real Sociedad and Hector Moreno of PSV. Both of whom have had good seasons, right? Yeah, and they've formed kind of a partnership. Marquez is there if they go to a back three. Then Marquez goes between them, right? Then he's the sweeper guy because he's so perfectly suited to do that job.
I think that's what it says on Osorio's paper is Marquez is the sweeper guy.
Yeah.
Yep. No.
Except en español. Right? The 4-3-3 in the middle, we talked about it's going to be Guardado on the left of centre. It's going to be Hector Herrera on the right of centre. The central guy in some games has been Rafa Marquez. So he kind of like does a holding midfield defensive job in the centre of midfield. But there's also Jesus Duenas and Carlos Peña can both do that job. Asking Rafa Marquez to play 3 games in central midfield is a big ask.
That's a good point.
And they may be thinking of using him for a very specific job, maybe a more defensive job, when they play some of the tougher games. So I think basically he'll be important, but he'll be used sparingly. And it's no reflection on him, although he's not in great form apparently for Atlas in the league.
Season.
Right, but he'll still be used, but used sparingly. So Rafa Marquez will play fewer than half of available minutes, but it won't necessarily be a bad thing.
Let me ask you this. Do you think he starts that first game against Uruguay?
Well, that's the weird thing, right? Because it's the toughest game in the group to start with. I think maybe, yeah. I think just for experience and leadership and the fact that they'll maybe need an extra defensive shield.
So basically, your prediction is going to look really bad at first, and then maybe he'll play like half against Jamaica and then no minutes against Venezuela, and all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute,
right?
Hold on now.
And then maybe if there's a tough draw in the quarterfinal, he'll be back in for that.
It's basically going to come down to extra time in terms of if you get your prediction, because at that point, if it goes in that way that I said, then he's played 45 minutes.
Half of available minutes in Group C.
Okay, I got you.
We just have to hope there isn't like a huge added time in one of the half C players.
Right?
No injuries. No one go down in that game.
Okay.
Do you have another prediction?
Other than that, Gio Dos Santos will not score in this tournament.
I still think you might be wrong. We could still see him. I think you've made that with confidence. You might. There's a chance it comes wrong.
No, I don't think he gets called in. Just
because of the little spat that's happened.
Maybe if it had been, as I said, that they had kind of worked it out, that he said, I'm just more comfortable playing with my club right now. I don't really want to come in, but I appreciate the call. And so then they could kind of present that unified front.
Yeah.
But given the way things have gone, that it had to be clarified and that there were lots of different stories about it and there's been drama, I could see Osorio just being like, I don't want to deal with this. I don't want drama in this team. I want everybody playing smoothly and as a unit, so I'll call in somebody else instead.
No geodrama.
Like his brother, which could be especially dramatic.
You just missed a semi-good entourage joke. My final very specific prediction...
There's no such thing as a semi-good entourage joke.
My final very specific prediction... Hector Herrera, you knew there had to be one, will be involved in a goal, but will not get enough credit for it. So if you think about the way Hector Herrera plays, as you mentioned before...
we'll not get enough credit everywhere else but the Total Soccer
Correct.
Show.
Absolutely correct. So, yeah, I love this player. He was one of my favourite players at World Cup 2014. He goes box to box, but he's not all about running. He is a magnificent passer, and he has a great sort of first touch and a great sort of box of tiny tricks that just make himself enough space to get the pass away. Right? So he's not a show-off in terms of like doing loads of tricks to go nowhere. He'll do a trick, open up some space, and then play the ball. And even like receives the ball in an Iniesta-ish kind of way. You know, like that quick... that touch that takes you immediately out of trouble and opens up space. That's the stuff I find so impressive about Hector Herrera. So there'll be some moment like that will open a defence, but maybe like 4 passes before the actual goal happens. And I will be here to talk about it on the Total Soccer Show.
How about my third specific prediction, my actual specific prediction be Mexico is good at the soccer? Because they really are. Just talking about all these different players, there's so many good players doing so many good things. I will say about Hector Herrera, though, specifically... You would think, though, that with Miguel Herrera gone, I would be happier because now I don't have to pause and think about that. Like, wait, is it okay, I got it. Except I already had to do that earlier in the show. I was like, wait, is it Hector? Okay, it is definitely Miguel Herrera who used to coach Mexico, not Hector Herrera.
I use the double H as my
that's a good way to do it. I like it.
Device, yeah. Funny thing, we didn't really talk about Chicharito, Raul Jimenez, Peralta. So those are the strikers who will be competing for space. And then we talked about Tecatito, right? He's probably going to be one of the starting attacking wingers. Your other options are a guy I've seen a lot about, but not enough to have a specific prediction about, Hirving Lozano and Jürgen Damm.
Yep.
2 really fast, really dangerous wingers.
Are you sure Jürgen Damm is in the roster?
Well, he wasn't
right.
on the MLS published roster that I saw, but then I feel like there was either a typo at MLS headquarters or there was a late switch with the Mexico roster. But we've confirmed Jürgen Damm is on the roster, right?
Exactly.
Pacey winger with presumably German heritage.
Presumably, I'd say so. All right, well, that does it for Mexico. Should we move on to their, I'd say their biggest rival in Group C?
And their first opponent.
Yes, and we should add again, as we talked about in our first Group A, in the Group A preview, the first preview for Copa America that we did, we are going with the more American-British pronunciation for clubs and players, right? So we're not going Uruguay. We're going Uruguay.
I said Mexico the whole time, too. Now
Did you?
Uruguay.
Yeah, right? Yeah, so even though we know that we're mispronouncing some of these, and we apologize for that, we're going to try to be a little bit more consistent and also not be pretentious.
We're doing the British thing.
Yeah,
we're just pronouncing it however we think something should be.
Yeah.
So Uruguay.
Yeah.
Uruguay, coached by Oscar Tabarez, who has been there since forever. He's been the coach for 10, nearly 11 years, right? They are top of World Cup qualifying in CONMEBOL, but I'm still tempted to see. It's only, 4 or 5 games in?
Sure.
Maybe 6.
I think 6.
I'm still tempted to see this as Uruguay on the downslope. And I look at World Cup 2010 as the peak, right? They were semi-finalists. Copa America 2011 winners, all good. World Cup 2014, they made the round of 16 and were sort of dispatched by Colombia. Then the last Copa America, last year in 2015, they finished 3rd in their group, only just got out of the group. And then they faced Chile in that quarterfinal, and it was the famous Edson Cavani, Yara. I think we have to call it the bum incident that happened, and they went out in kind of a mess. It's not their fault, but they did overreact to it. And now
I'm going to say that tournament has an asterisk around it because it was a little bit controversial, it was a little bit crazy, was the 2015 Copa America. It was. So I wouldn't put too much stock in that one in terms of dictating how Uruguay will play or whether or not they're on the up or down.
Well, speaking of how they play, this is the reason I talked about Mexico being sort of the most exciting team to watch in this group. Uruguay, for all the sort of the names that you think of immediately, like, Luis Suarez, Edson Cavani, they are a defensive team. This is a team that under Tabarez has sort of defends deep, sits deep in essentially a 4-4-2, and then tries to hit you on the counter with Suarez and Cavani. I mean, you got Godin as your centre back. You sort of can't go wrong, but you also can't be too exciting. So don't expect to be wowed by Uruguay for long stretches, but maybe do expect them to score on the break and it make a decent highlight reel.
I would say that to put it that way, kind of is negative almost to say like, oh, they're really defensive. But I would say they're really defensive because they're really good defensively. Yeah. You mentioned they have Diego Godin. They also have Jose Jimenez, who is Diego Godin's partner at Atletico Madrid. 21 years old, been with Atletico since 2013, has 46 appearances. But he's 21 caps already for the national team. So he's like already a veteran at the age of 21. And you've got those two guys who know how to play, know how to operate, know how to do what the coach wants them to do.
Maybe he just gets a cap a year, though. So from here on out, he's only going to play once a year.
That could be, although I think it's pretty unlikely. But I do think, I guess what I'm trying to get at is that I think it's
also
more...
like he didn't get his first cap when he was 1.
That's true. But I think what I'm getting at is that unlike maybe some teams in this tournament who are going to be playing defensively because they have to play defensively.
By some teams, do you mean Venezuela, who we'll talk about later?
I mean multiple teams in multiple groups. I think Uruguay maybe will play defensively because they're very good at playing defensively and because you have that Atletico Madrid relationship already. So you start those two center backs and maybe you play a little bit like Madrid in that you kind of sit back. Madrid. Yeah, you sit back and you kind of do the kind of contained defensive structure, and then you hit on the break with very good attackers.
Well, this leads me into my very first prediction.
All right.
And my first specific prediction about Uruguay, they will have the fewest goals conceded in Group C. And it's based on their successful defensive approach. Mm-hmm. We talked about Diego Godin. We've talked about him so much when we do Atletico games. We'll talk about him later this week when we do our Champions League final preview. He's a great organiser, a great sort of one-on-one defender, a great thrower of himself in front of balls to block them. Mm-hmm. But he's also, like you talked about, right, he's got his partner, Jimenez, for Uruguay. You've got Maxi Pereira at right back, who is, as well as being kind of a threat going forward, is genuinely a really aggressive tackler. And they've usually got two defensive midfielders in front of them, right? Uruguay are not a team to waste a midfield spot on a creative player, which, again, is maybe not that exciting to watch, but it's very effective. Nicolas Ladero, I believe, is the creative midfielder for Uruguay and basically doesn't play. He's a guy who comes on if they need him later on. So for all those reasons, Uruguay will concede the fewest goals in Group C.
Okay.
Maybe across the whole tournament's group stage.
Interesting. But a bold prediction. Mm-hmm. I've got one for you as well, Mr.
Right.
Rove. It's that Uruguay coach Oscar Tabarez will not like Lewis and Clark.
Excuse me?
You heard me. The Explorers, Lewis and Clark. Because
how's he going to meet them?
My actual prediction is that he will make negative remarks about U.S. geography or U.S. climate in a post-match press conference.
Why is that?
Because he already has. Basically, before the tournament, he talked about how Mexico were basically the home team for this tournament already, at least from their perspective of playing them in the group, from Uruguay's perspective. Yeah. But he also talked about he's not pleased with how hot it's going to be, and he's not pleased by their travel schedule. Uruguay are playing in Phoenix on June 5th, in Philadelphia on June 9th, and Santa Clara, California on June 13th. So in 8 days, they're going across and back from the country. So I think there would be some comments about how far they've had to travel or about how they haven't enjoyed playing in, sweltering heat, either desert heat or humid heat in Philly. We shall see. But I think for those reasons...
Just go see the Liberty Bell.
Yeah, sure. That should do it.
Or go visit Paddy's Pub.
They explain how that Liberty Bell got cracked. But I think... whether or not it actually impacts the way they play, maybe they win all 3 games, and I think he will still be not be pleased by the climate and geography of the United States.
So Oscar Tabarez will complain about the climate and geography of the United States. Yes. I don't think he'll reference Lewis and Clark, though.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
I don't think he even watches the Superman TV series.
The New Adventures?
My next very specific prediction is Luis Suarez will have the best chance conversion in Group C. So once again, this is about Uruguay's playing style.
Stats.
It's also about the fact that he'll likely be scoring on the break, right? And when you get a chance on the break, it's a much higher quality chance than those little half chances that come against teams that are defending deep against you.
Mm-hmm. Or shooting from distance into a packed group of defenders.
Yeah, so I'm really thinking of the quality of chance that Suarez is going to get if Uruguay manage to get him free on the break, which they will, because he's so good at pushing that offside line. You know that thing he does where he stands offside, comes back, really toys with the linesman. I mean, linesmen must hate having to do it at a Luis Suarez game because you have to keep watching whether he's come back in time.
I'm curious about one thing with this, though.
What's that?
Isn't this predicated on the idea that other teams will be coming at Uruguay and will be kind of possessing the ball in their half and then Uruguay will break? Because I can't see Venezuela or really Jamaica doing that.
I think Mexico will attack. Obviously, Venezuela won't. We'll talk about Venezuela later, but they play deep with less countering than Uruguay, just play deep. Jamaica play kind of a high-pressure line. So Jamaica will leave space behind.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's why Luis Suarez will have the best chance conversion in Group C. And bonus prediction, he will not do anything stupid.
Okay.
Or violent.
It just occurred to me that you're couching all of this within Group C. I hadn't thought about that before. I thought you were going to do like the whole tournament. So I like that little wrinkle.
So Suarez will get like a handful of really good chances and put them away.
All right. Well, my second prediction is that Fernando Muslera will get a move this summer based largely on his performances in this tournament.
This is Uruguay's keeper?
It is. And it's because he's been playing for Uruguay and in Europe for a very long time.
Who's
been
he
playing
with?
Galatasaray in Turkey.
Oh, okay.
And I think that's exactly my point. He's a very good goalkeeper who gets linked with different teams intermittently, but I think generally speaking, when you talk about best goalkeepers in the world, he's probably in there, at least in the top 20 conversation. And I think people kind of forget about him because he's playing in Turkey.
Right, and either Galatasaray is this huge team, it's kind of out of the regular spotlight, right?
And they've had
sometimes a smaller spotlight is shone over to Turkey, and they're like, oh yeah, Galatasaray.
Right, except that this season they had a very bad season. They have financial difficulties, so they're out of Europe for the 2015 or 2016-2017 season. Yeah. So I could see that maybe further.
So regardless of the tournament, he'll probably get a move. But his performance in the tournament will dictate where he goes.
Exactly, because it will be a reminder of like, oh yeah, he's really good. He's really good with his feet. He's really good at making those reaction saves. He's really good with distribution.
We can sell David De Gea after all.
Let's not go that far. But like for example, I always heard him like linked with Chelsea before Courtois became their permanent goalkeeper. I could see him make a move to England or Italy or even Spain. Who knows?
How about Liverpool?
That would be a good one. His distribution is excellent.
We watched the Liverpool Europa League final with our friend Scott, who was not impressed with Simon Mignolet.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So he'd be probably happy to get Muslera in there.
There we go. So I say Muslera gets a move this summer, maybe because he reminds everyone how good he is at this tournament.
I like it. All right, so my final prediction. Someone, not necessarily me, will call Matias Vecino the Uruguayan Pirlo. He will be branded the Uruguayan Pirlo by the end of this tournament.
Is that because of his physical appearance or because of what he'll be doing on the ball?
It's what he does with his feet.
Let's hear it.
So I mentioned before that Uruguay plays sort of two defensive central midfielders, right? Nicolas Ladero is the emergency option, not the starter. First option is Rios, kind of experienced defensive midfielder. He'll definitely play. The new option, who only has 2 caps, he only got his call up in March, is Matias Vecino. He plays for Fiorentina in Italy. He is 24 years old. He is sort of what Uruguay needs. He can defend, but he also plays those Pirlo-esque balls. So I've seen so much footage of him playing. You know when you picture a Pirlo through ball? It's kind of like he bends as he passes it and the ball sort of somehow lands in a striker's stride, like directly for him to get on the end of and shoot. That's what I think Vecino is going to be doing, because that's what I've seen him do for Fiorentina.
So you've kind of, to use the fantasy football parlance, you've kind of handcuffed them, because it seems like your prediction for Suarez is based on the distribution of Vecino. Okay.
And my prediction for the few goals conceded is based on their strategy. Yeah, all my predictions are tied together here.
Could be risky.
I don't just make this stuff up, you know.
Could be risky.
I'll put some thought into this.
Could be risky.
So that name again, Matias Vecino. He's a new player for Uruguay, only has 2 caps, but started the last 2 World Cup qualifiers. 24 years old, from Fiorentina. Keep your eyes on Matias Vecino.
Can we make a caveat that it can't be you who calls him?
I already said that. I said someone from outside of the studio will call him the Uruguayan Pirlo.
Cool. Just wanted to remind myself of that one for future.
I figured if Joe Allen can be the Welsh Pirlo, then Matias Vecino can easily be the Uruguayan Pirlo.
It's Joe Pirlo. Thank you. All right, should we move on to Jamaica?
Yes.
All right. Jamaica. Manager Winfried Schaefer, hired in July 2013. So he's been there for a while as well. Not quite as long as Suarez.
Sorry, when was he hired?
2013.
Okay.
But yeah. So, and I think the thing that's kind of confusing about Jamaica is, so they were in the Copa America last year. They didn't get out of the group. I don't think they won a game. But they were in a group with Argentina and Uruguay. And I think they lost to both 1-0. So that shows you that they were defensively organized. And then because of that experience, I think a lot of people made that argument. I think we made this argument. They made the Gold Cup final. Because they had already had that Copa America experience. You come to the Gold Cup.
Beat the USA on the way.
But you have that chemistry already in place. And so you think of them as this team that knocked out the USA, that's really risky on the counterattack, that's got good pacey wingers and good pacey fullbacks. But then you look at how it's been going for them in qualifying. They are 3rd in Group B in CONCACAF qualifying at the moment. They have 4 points, 1 win, 1 draw. They're behind Costa Rica, who have 10 points, and Panama, who have 7 points.
There's a big game in September, Jamaica versus Panama. That could all turn around in that game. So let's not write off their qualification process just yet.
But to be clear, it's Jamaica traveling to Panama, and Jamaica lost 2-0 at home, and then they being Jamaica, host Haiti. So it's going to be really tough, especially since they've only managed 2 goals goals in the last 5 games.
Right.
So goals kind of unlikely heading into this tournament. Maybe a little bit more defensive, as we've already talked about.
So what I saw was Schaefer in the last year or so talking about how he wants Jamaica to play high pressure, right? So I thought of that as like a Jurgen Klopp type high pressure. When I watched the footage of them, I think I watched the games against Costa Rica. Not all of them, I watched like 15-minute highlights of each. It seems like they set the pressure at the halfway line, right? So the strikers will chase you a little bit. The midfielders hold to halfway, and then they come after you. It does make it difficult to play because these players will be chasing and harrying you. So that's Jamaica's style, usually in a sort of a 4-4-2.
Okay. Well, speaking of harrying, of physicality, my first specific prediction is that Romeo Parks will probably not make the final roster for Jamaica.
Oh, the Romeo Parks.
Yes. Romeo Parks, who kicks people in the back in USL. I believe it was Carl Ouimet. That might be horrible pronunciation, I apologize. But it was Ouimet playing for New York Red Bulls 2. And then in this case, it was Parks playing for Pittsburgh Riverhounds. Parks now has since been dropped completely by the Riverhounds. I think his contract has been terminated. So without a club and maybe without a spot in this Jamaica roster as a result.
Not officially though, right? He's on the 40-man provisional roster. They haven't named the final 23. I'll be very surprised if he makes the 23-man roster after that event. It'd be a shame tour of the United States. He'll get booed at every stadium.
Yeah, I made this as like a joking specific prediction, but you're right. It could actually be proven incorrect.
Yeah, I mean, this is more likely than your Geo.
True. My actual first specific prediction is that commentators will make at least one Captain Morgan reference during match play. And that's either in reference to Westley Morgan, the Leicester City captain, also Jamaica's captain.
Is he? I thought Rodolphe Austin was Jamaica's captain.
I think. See, this is the problem with a lot of these teams, is because players have been the captain at one point. Wikipedia or Soccerway, whichever one you go with, lists different people as captains. So I just kind of assumed it's going to be Westley Morgan. I could be wrong. We shall see. But regardless, I could see it being because he does something very dramatic, so he makes an amazing tackle on Luis Suarez, or he gets a headed goal.
I'm looking forward to that showdown. The muscles of Westley Morgan versus the sort of, what do you call it? The cunning of Luis Suarez.
Right. But this prediction is based on the idea that he's so important for Jamaica because he will be doing that defensive work. He might be because he scores a dramatic headed goal in a corner or a set piece. Or it could be that maybe in a game that's not so exciting, commentators need something to say, and so then they tell the story about Leicester winning and Captain Morgan and how he got the custom bottle from the liquor company.
Is that what happened?
I think they put out like a promo image of one in all blue, and then he was like, "I want one of those," and that's kind of where that kept going from. Right. I don't know if he actually got one or not, but and that's obviously not what started it. But that's where I'm saying will get mentioned in this game.
I also have a Westley Morgan prediction. He's obviously kind of the focal point for a lot of people. Because Leicester City, that whole story, and because of he's kind of a flashy defender in a way, because he often comes out and wins balls aggressively, right? So you notice him as a centre back. The other thing he does well, which leads to my prediction, Westley Morgan will lead Group C in the made-up statistic: balls shepherded out of play.
All right, wait, what?
You know that thing where the ball is
I know what you're talking about.
running out of bounds and you run over as a defender and you essentially just shield the ball until it goes out of play and the other guy can't get around you. So you're really making no attempt to play the ball, but you're pretending as if you are, and eventually the ball goes out for a goal kick. Wesley Morgan does that so often and so successfully, and I think he'll do this the most in Group C.
So to clarify, your specific prediction is that he will win a made-up category.
I mean, I'm going to count.
Are you really?
Yeah.
You're going to count every other game to see if he wins.
I mean, we'll either be watching together and I'll tell you about it, or I'm going to text you every time he shields a ball out of play.
My point simply is that are you also going to watch to see if Rafa Marquez shepherds the ball out of bounds and how many times he does it?
Absolutely.
I feel like this is a specific prediction we're not going to be able to accurately recap at the end of the tournament.
Well, we'll just have to assume that I'm right.
For sure.
But just keep an eye out for Morgan doing that. When Jamaica are defending, if there's a ball goes into the corner or is going towards the goal line, the end line, he will put his body between the player and the ball, pretend to play the ball, and he'll be too big for anyone to get around. That ball will go out for a goal kick.
I will say I think he's going to lead at least Jamaica in terms of headed clearances, and that's because obviously he's very good at what he does, but also because Andre Blake, Jamaica's goalkeeper, is not so great in terms of coming off his line and commanding that box. So I think that's where Morgan will will maybe have to deputize as the person who gets that ball clear. That said...
You have to use his head as Andre Blake's fists.
Yes. Well, that said, my other specific prediction for Jamaica is that Andre Blake will single, or obviously in this case, double-handedly keep Jamaica in a game.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. That's some faith.
I'm not the only one who's thinking this. Matt Doyle has predicted that Andre Blake will be the breakout player of the tournament. It seems like Alexi Lalas also
Matt Doyle's
agrees.
making specific predictions now.
Yeah. Well, I think that he had a conversation with Lalas about breakout players.
Right,
Andre Blake was one because he's having such a good season with Philadelphia, but also because he's such a natural shot stopper that, as I said, he's not great in terms of commanding the box, in terms of coming off of his line to catch that ball. That's where Morgan will come in. But Andre Blake has so many, just watch any YouTube video of him, so many reaction saves and point-blank saves, but also able to get that shot that's just going to the top corner, and he just tips it clear. So I think he's going to have one of those games where if and when his opponent does score, it will be in the 85th minute after he's made 15 saves.
So we've got to have an attacking prediction for Jamaica. My prediction is Giles Barnes will score from outside the box.
Ooh.
Either a free kick, as he did to the United States in the Gold Cup semi-final. Remember Brad Guzan accidentally carried the ball outside the box?
Yep.
Got called for it because the referee decided to enforce it that day.
Yep.
Giles Barnes put that free kick in the top corner.
Yep.
Also, you watch his Houston Dynamo highlights. So many shots from outside the box. So many of them going in. So either a free kick or a shot from distance. Giles Barnes will score from outside the box.
It sounds, though, that Houston fans aren't so sad to see Giles Barnes leaving for a few weeks to play in this tournament. It sounds like there's a little bit of frustration with him this season. So maybe he recaptures form, or maybe he already has, and I was just reading comments from people who were a little bit behind the times. But I haven't watched much Houston, but it seems like there were some people who were sort of good riddance, go do other stuff, and maybe come back when you're ready.
People in comment sections are usually the most optimistic and cheery.
Always the most rational and just well-thought-out arguments are found in the comment section. Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, genuinely, though, let us know. How is Giles Barnes doing for Houston?
Yeah.
Email us, contact@totalsoccershow.com, or give us a tweet on Twitter. Let us know. Should we expect big things from Giles Barnes? Could we see one goal from outside the box in this tournament from Giles Barnes?
Alrighty. So that's Mexico, Uruguay, Jamaica. Should we move to Venezuela, or do you have any more Jamaica predictions?
I have no more Jamaica predictions.
All right.
I am ready for Venezuela. The one thing I want to ask you is, who's the underdog in this group? Is it Jamaica or is it Venezuela?
It's Venezuela.
It is, isn't it?
For sure.
Yes.
It definitely is.
So here's all I know about Venezuela. I know they play defensive. Mm-hmm. I know they essentially play a 4-5-1, right? So they play deep back four. They play 5 midfield. One striker who we'll talk about. He's kind of good, but not enough to win tournaments on his own. Mm-hmm. I also know that Rafael Dudamel is the coach, and that he became the coach in controversial circumstances, and I know Taylor has the story behind that.
Right. Okay, so basically you had Noel San Vicente was named head coach of Venezuela in September of 2014.
Okay.
And his big thing that he wanted to do was he wanted to modernize the way Venezuela played, because Venezuela tended to sit back, play deep, defend deep, and then try to score 1 goal or 2 goals on the counter and win 1-0. San Vicente wanted to play an aggressive high line, really kind of modernize, play more high pressure, maybe a little bit of a gegenpress in there. Mm-hmm. But this angered his older defenders. Kind of like what happened with John Terry at Chelsea with Andre Villas-Boas. He didn't want to play that high line. These defenders were sort of like, this doesn't suit us at all. We're not going to be able to do this.
If you're slow and you play a high line, there's spacing behind you and you're not fast enough to cover that space.
So in December...
This is what happened?
Yeah. In December of 2015, the players threatened to quit, essentially. They were mad at the Venezuelan FA. They were mad at San Vicente. And there was kind of an open letter about how they didn't really want to play for him anymore.
Right.
Eventually...
He should have just got some young, fast defenders and done it.
That would have been the thing. But I think you also have kind of these proven names that people really like. They've got fan favorites in there. Eventually, San Vicente resigned in March of 2016 with the team sitting bottom of CONMEBOL qualifying, 1 point from 6 games.
You say March of 2016 like that's a long time ago.
It is not.
It's not, is it?
It is not. To the point that, as you said, Rafael Dudamel has not coached the team in a game yet.
Okay.
I wouldn't say, not even a competitive game, but even in a friendly. No games for him. So I think they have 4 friendlies lined up before this tournament starts.
So this idea I have of them playing deep in a 4-5-1, is that just what I've seen in the way past, like before... the coach that was fired?
I think,
or has Dudamel says we're going to go back to this?
Dudamel, I believe, has said we're going back to that. That's what we're going to focus on. And so I think maybe San Vicente was trying to do a hybrid of it, or maybe he realized that a mutiny is not ideal for keeping your job. So maybe he went back to it, but by then he'd already kind of lost the faith of the players. The issue with Dudamel, however, is that the Venezuelan economy is not good, and that is reflected in the Venezuelan Football Federation, also not very financially strong at the moment, which means they
Is this an oil thing?
Yes, I believe so, right. So then they couldn't go out and hire a foreign... Basically, the head of the federation said, like, yeah, we can't afford an expensive foreign manager. So they appointed Dudamel, who was the U20 national team head coach.
Okay.
He is
Could be a blessing in disguise.
He's also a former goalkeeper who had many caps for Venezuela, which is why I came to call us the group of goalkeepers, because you had the Mexico goalkeeper drama. I had 2 predictions about goalkeepers from my other teams, and then Venezuela coached by a former goalkeeper. There we are. So that brings us to the present day, where they have 4 friendlies lined up, and then
that makes sense. That
play
makes
very
sense now.
defensively in Copa America. Yep.
So at least they'll have 4 friendlies to get it down.
Yeah.
And then they just go out and face Jamaica in the first game.
Should work.
It could work.
Yeah.
So let's talk about players. Do you have any? What's your first specific prediction for what Venezuela are going to do?
Sure. It's that defender Roberto Rosales will create a chance from a long ball. So Venezuela do score goals. I mean, 6 games, 7 goals. They average a little over a goal a game. It's more that they tend to concede goals. Mm-hmm. Whether or not that high defensive line or lack of high defensive line will change things, we shall see. But a big part of Rosales is he creates opportunities. He loves to play a direct long ball.
What position does he play?
He is an outside back. So he's not necessarily going to be bombing down the wing, getting on the attacks every single time. He's not such an attacking fullback. It's going to be more kind of ball at his feet, looking to play players in, looking to capitalize on that one lone striker.
So big diagonals or balls into the channel.
Exactly.
I see.
So I'm going to say I'm not going to say he's going to have an assist, but I will say that it's going to be kind of a ball pinged over the top, run on, and maybe a shot comes from it. Maybe there's a chance created. We shall see.
His name again is Roberto Rosales?
You got it.
All right. So the man possibly on the end of one of those balls is Salomon Rondon, who I believe will score a one-touch goal. This is based on the highlights I've seen of him. He likes to finish first time. He likes to the ball comes across, he likes to just get there and make sure to hit it first. Salomon Rondon will be the lone striker, more than likely. He may have Joseph Martinez with him. He may just be on his own. He scored 14 in 47 for Venezuela. That's not bad. He scored 9 in 34 for West Brom, which when we talked about off air, you weren't so impressed with. But I feel like scoring 9 goals in the Premier League for West Brom, top scorer, is actually not too shabby.
That's the difference. Is I hadn't really put it in the context of West Brom, who kind of were fighting to stay up this season,
right,
and had a lot of drama actually for West Brom. So it does make a little more sense than for a team that doesn't play very much attacking soccer, that's coached by Tony Pulis, to have a striker who gets 9 goals and that be a good season.
And here's the biggest thing: if you want the greatest evidence of Salomon Rondon's cool under pressure, his composure, find the video of him saving DeAndre Yedlin. Do you remember this?
Yes, that's right.
So it's Yedlin playing for Sunderland, Rondon playing for West Brom.
Right.
Yedlin comes over the top of Rondon, gets to the ball first. I think Yedlin gets the header, but then keeps going over the top of Rondon and is heading for his face going into the dirt. Maybe his head. It could have been dangerous.
Yeah.
Rondon grabs him on his way down, spins him around, and sets him on his feet.
He's a hero.
He's an
American hero is Rondon.
It's like he's an American hero. Yeah. It was like a scene from like an X-Men movie or something where the person's trying to not show their mutant powers and accidentally something dramatic happens and he has to use them to save someone.
It's very helpful professional wrestling, put it that way. He could have just kept spinning around him and land him on his knee. Instead he lands him properly on his feet and then continues on his way.
So Salomon Rondon, saviour of DeAndre Yedlin, will score a one-touch goal, a first-time finish this group. It may be the only goal that Venezuela score, but he will do it.
Sounds good. My second specific prediction for Venezuela is that Thomas Rincon will emphatically gesture while in possession of the ball. Okay, so if you don't know about Rincon is a defensive central midfielder for Genoa in Serie A. And he is the team captain for Venezuela. He played 33 times for Genoa this season. And he tends to, from the highlights I saw, I don't watch a lot of Genoa, I'll be honest, but I watched a lot of highlights.
Every game I've seen.
I watched a lot of highlights of Rincon. And it seems like he tends to be the one who's directing play. So he'll be on the ball and he'll sort of be telling people, you run there or you run there. And I see him do this a lot where he'll sort of be waiting for someone to make the run he wants them to make. This carries over to the Venezuelan national team as well. From the highlights I've seen, it's a lot of him standing and telling someone to come check to so they can get the ball or to move that way. And so you're going to see him sort of emphatically telling people what to do while in possession.
So emphatic gestures from Rincon in the midfield for Venezuela.
Yeah. Oh, and with that, my other favorite thing that I kind of almost went with is that he does that thing where he's telling people what to do, but he's not just standing. So you'll see him like what could have been one touch will be 4 or 5 touches. So it's like lots of little touches, like while he's like, hey, you move there, touch, 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 and then he'll play the ball. So weird runs, lots of gesturing is what we're going to see from Thomas Rincon.
Speaking of weird runs, my final specific prediction for Venezuela is Josef Martinez, who is a striker/winger but ends up playing wide in the 4-5-1 usually, will have a brilliant dribble that goes nowhere. So I've seen so much. I watch a lot of Josef Martinez highlight videos, right? And it's him playing for Venezuela. The highlights are focusing on the tricks and skills that he does, but they end up not going anywhere. And not that it's his fault, it's because he doesn't have any help. Like he dribbles on the break, but there's no one else with him. So he ends up sort of dribbling in circles and doing tricks to maintain possession while he's waiting for other guys to come forward. And eventually, like, he ends up back where he started, even though his team's advanced, or like he doesn't get all the way down the field. So you'll see a lot of tricks and feints and skills, and one magnificent dribble from Josef Martinez that doesn't actually go anywhere but doesn't lose the ball.
All right. I like it. So
weird winging from Josef Martinez.
Weird winging and weird gesturing is going to be the story of Venezuela if we get our predictions correct. So that's Group C. Daryl, I have a question for you. So when this draw happened, the United States basically was going to maybe get Colombia or Uruguay. And I think on coefficients, Colombia are the strongest team because we know the United States got statistically the hardest group it could have gotten.
Yeah.
But if you had to choose, would you have rather the United States drew Colombia or Uruguay? Because I think I'm actually happier that they got Colombia.
Can I tell you on June 4th?
Sure.
I mean, it's just two different things, right? Colombia are more of an attacking threat, and Uruguay are more of a impossible to break down threat. So I think Colombia. Yeah, I think I would prefer Colombia because I think the US is a team that would struggle to get through that sort of Godin and Jimenez central back partnership.
I guess we shall see.
Yeah.
We'll see if Colombia smashed the United States, then I would say I wish we'd gotten Uruguay instead.
Did you say you preferred Colombia in the end?
Yeah. So we shall see.
Speaking of, Mr. Josie Altidore, we made a prediction about Copa America Group A when we did the US.
You get the credit for this one.
I made the prediction that Josie would get injured either in the warm-ups or during the group stage, and the prediction has come true even earlier.
Yes.
He has got injured with Toronto. He is out for 6 to 8 weeks. That puts him not even close to being in the tournament.
Right.
So I had quite a few people tweet this at us like, hey, TSS got a prediction right. I want to say we are not happy about getting this prediction right. It was not something
it's a silver lining situation. Yes.
Right, yeah, but it's not something we wanted to happen. I wanted a 100% fit Josie playing for the US, scoring goals in Group A.
Yeah.
The silver lining, I guess, is that at least he's not half injured and we're going to push him to play. It seems like his hamstring is so injured that he's definitely not going to be on the 23.
Never say never.
I mean,
never say never.
I say this because 2015 Gold Cup.
Yep.
That's what we did, right?
This is why I say never say never.
We brought Josie along even though he was clearly not fit and then made him play and he didn't play very well because he was clearly not fit. So let's assume Josie doesn't make the 23 through injury. At least now we can focus on our other options. Bobby Wood, now a first top division Bundesliga player with Hamburg. Jordan Morris, it gives him a better chance to make the final squad. He may not have Christian Pulisic. It maybe pushes him. I know he's not the same position, but it pushes him at least a little bit up the depth chart.
Yep. Wondolowski maybe, just because you need that kind of big physical replacement for Josie Altidore. Maybe that's going to be Chris Wondolowski.
Possibly.
Well, we won't find out about Wondolowski this weekend, but we might find out about a few other U.S. players because the United States on Sunday taking on Puerto Rico at 12 p.m. Sunday kickoff. Maybe 12:30. We're never really sure when it comes to what time games actually kick off.
U.S. soccer's a bit wishy-washy with the actual kickoff time. They never say later than it is. They'll often tell you earlier to get you to tune in early and watch some commercials.
Right.
I feel like.
So we're banking on noon then.
We're banking on noon. It's Fox Sports 1 Sunday at noon. We may do a review show if the game yields enough of interest to talk about. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think so.
And then on the 25th and 28th, we have friendlies against Bolivia and Ecuador. I can't remember if that's the right order. I will know by Sunday. Not featuring in the Puerto Rico game, but on the 40-man roster, Timmy Chandler, who is, as we speak, playing for Eintracht Frankfurt against Nuremberg in a Bundesliga relegation playoff. He started at right back. We had to turn off the TV to record this show. It's 2 legs, so we'll know the first leg result by the time you hear this. Second leg coming up. We'll see if Timmy Chandler remains a top-tier player.
Sounds good. Another game happening this weekend, maybe not quite as big as USA v. Puerto Rico, is the Richmond Kickers playing host to Louisville FC.
Yes.
7 p.m. at City Stadium.
This is the thing I knew you had scheduled.
Yes. Louisville, top of the Eastern Conference, most points in all of USL. Richmond Kickers with a job to do at home.
Absolutely. Yeah, so Kickers have been rough on the road, but very good at home, at least in terms of winning games. But it hasn't been good enough to get them any higher than mid-table. This is the first big challenge they have at home, I feel like. Louisville, visiting City Stadium. Taylor and I will, of course, be in the commentary booth, or at least under the commentary tent.
Yeah, under the commentary tent, yes.
So if you're, we know we have some Louisville fans who listen to the show.
Or Louisville, sure.
Yeah, oh no, this is going to be a problem on Saturday, isn't it? We'll practice Saturday afternoon. I will get that pronunciation correct. But also, we will. The thing we do for our USL broadcast for the Kickers, we're very conscious of the idea that the hardcore Kickers fans will be at the City Stadium in Richmond watching. So weirdly, the majority of people watching the broadcast will be fans of the other team, because their team's away from home and this is the only way to watch. So we do some diligent research to make sure we know something about the opposition team before we watch the game. We definitely learn all the players' names. We learn where they play. But we would like to know, any Louisville fans out there. Again, I'll get that right by Saturday.
It's tough. It took me 4 years of college.
If you have any info to send us about your team, tweet it at us maybe. Yeah, tweet it at us at Total Soccer Show, or email it contact@totalsoccershow.com. And also, we're going to watch a couple of games from earlier this season. Let us know what is the most typical game that we could watch to get a good idea of how your team plays. You notice all the euphemisms I'm using, so I don't say Louisville.
Yes, I like it. That's closer. It's good. I might not even have it right. Who knows? It's one of those. It's a regional accent.
Well, and what's your connection? Didn't you go to college near there or something?
I went to college in Kentucky.
I see.
Yes, at a small college closer to Lexington than Louisville.
I see.
Yes.
So, but that game is Saturday, 7 o'clock kickoff. We'll maybe put a link to the USL broadcast in the show notes if you do want to tune in and maybe hear us do some commentary, or if you're a Louisville fan and you want to see how that game goes.
I'd say my larger connection is that I enjoy horse racing and bourbon. Louisville tends to be the big one for those. No offense, Keeneland. But also coming up outside of those games that we mentioned, we've got the Champions League. It's kind of a big one.
Yes.
Coming next weekend, I believe.
Champions League final is Saturday, May 28th. Right. So next week, as well as our Copa America Group D preview, we will have a big Champions League final preview with lots of very specific predictions, lots of thoughts about the really interesting tactical matchup between the Madrids, Atletico and Real for the Champions League final. Yeah, so look out for that. In the future, European Championships is also coming. We're going to do our Euro 2016 group by group previews. Couple of other things to mention. We did the Danny Carbassiou interview. There was a contest to win the Arsenal Yankee, the book. We will do the draw on Twitter today and announce it. So if you enter that contest, check our Twitter feed. Twitter, that's how you pronounce that. Yep. We'll let you know who won that. Also, people who shared the very first Copa America Group A preview. There's a T-shirt to be won in that contest as well. We'll do both of those draws on Twitter today.
Any other bits of business, Mr. Grove?
Last but absolutely by no means least, we want to say a big and very sincere and heartfelt thank you to everybody who recently subscribed to the Total Soccer Show at totalsoccershow.com/subscribe. Your support means everything to us. It is part of the reason we are able to produce all of these episodes. It's part of the reason we'll be able to produce so many episodes through this summer. So big thank you to everybody who recently subscribed at totalsoccershow.com/subscribe.
It is how we're able to sit in our studio and watch the games.
Here we are.
So there you go. Yeah.
Anything else from you, Tyler?
No, that's about it. Other than that, I'm looking forward to that Kickers Louisville game.
Yeah, me too.
It should be good. And I'm looking forward to USA Puerto Rico, sort of.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? It's like sort of interesting but not too exciting. It's an odd hybrid.
If Puerto Rico played St. Vincent and the Grenadines, who do you think wins? Because I think it's St. Vincent.
I have no idea.
Yeah,
I really have no idea.
I know that St. Vincent enter at a later time in Caribbean qualifying than do Puerto Rico. So there's that to keep in mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll find out more on Sunday.
Yeah.
Also, FA Cup final on Saturday. We will maybe review that if something interesting happens. Manchester United versus Crystal Palace. That's noon on Fox here in the United States of America. Noon Eastern.
There we go.
All that remains to say is, Taylor Rockwell, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today about Copa America Centenario 2016 Group C.
Daryl Grove, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today about Copa America Centenario Group C.
Well done, buddy.
I think that's what it was.
Listeners, thank you for downloading. Thank you for listening. And we will talk to you again after the weekend.